Good evening. And welcome to all the new subscribers that we suddenly seem to have got thanks to Teddy and Eat Sleep Vinyl for a fantastic video, Teddy. Thank you.
Thank you, Teddy.
So for people who don't know, this is your first time watching the Dr. Rhythm channel. I'm Mark.
I'm John.
And kind of every month, 6 weeks, we get together and just play some music to each other. And we try and follow some kind of a thread. Never quite know what we're going to do, what we're going to play, but we try and keep it interesting and eclectic.
Mark has his entire collection, and I bring a box.
That's right.
So it's quite sometimes a challenge to find the thread, but I think we've just about managed it today.
And it's 1:20 on a Sunday morning here in Faversham in Kent.
Yeah.
And we're celebrating a new Labour leader.
Yeah.
Change is coming.
Change is coming.
And we're going to kick off. Well, I played a rather unexciting cover this one. This is Marina Rosenfeld. I can't actually remember how I heard about this record, but she's kind of an electronic sound artist, New York based, and this is an album where she recreated a sound installation she'd done in New York, but did it as a collaboration with a Jamaican MC called the Warrior Queen, and also a cellist called Ok Young Lee, and a very kind of glitchy, ambient, rather strange record to kick off. Kind of interesting.
Good one to kick off with.
Yeah. Marina Rosenfeld.
Yeah. And there was something about the kind of, I don't know, deconstructed kind of reggae thing that reminded me of the 49 Americans, who were a band, kind of collective formed in the UK back in the 80s with people like David Toop and Steve Beresford. A lot of improvisers in there, and the kind of main man behind it was somebody called Andrew Brenner, who then went on to write the Care Bears afterwards. So there's a first Care Bear connection we've had on the channel, and played a track called "Sounds Like Scar," which was a connection really with the other one. This is a kind of, when this record came out, it had a maximum value of £3, which is down in the corner here. Now it's worth a lot more than that. Just mad, actually. The band reformed for a one-off concert in London's Cafe Oto a little while ago as well, which I unfortunately missed because I was away. 49 Americans.
Very nice cover.
Very nice cover. Lots of funny drawings and stuff.
Yeah.
But very, very funny. A lot of real sense of humour going on here.
I kind of followed that up with a Hatfield and North album, The Rotters Club. I guess sort of quite a left field UK band from the early 70s, kind of drawing, I guess, from a bit from the Canterbury scene, but also artists who went on to work with Henry Cow. And we have Richard Sinclair, Phil Miller, Pip Pyle, Dave Stewart. A really great album, actually, and we listened to the track called Underdub, which was written by Phil Miller. Great album.
There's a vaguely Latin thing going on with that track, and which vaguely Latin, which pushed me into thinking about Michel Camillo for some reason. Largely because he was there in the box. Michel Camillo is a kind of Latin-orientated pianist based in New York. This is an album with him and Anthony Jackson, Dave Weckl, Lou Soloff, Chris Hunter, Sammy Figuera, and various others on here as well. Actually, I remember seeing this band, the trio in the middle of this band at the Blue Note when my trips in New York, and just being absolutely amazed by Anthony Jackson's bass playing. Played the track called "Thinking of You" on here. I'm not sure how we got from 49 Americans to Michel Camillo,
but we did in 2 moves.
2 moves.
This is a fantastic album. Charles Sullivan on the Strata East label. And the connection with the last one is that there's an incredible track called Field Holler that also features Alphonse Mouzon on drums and Anthony Jackson on the bass. And it's a really stunningly funky tune. And you can hear, even though this is kind of, I guess, 1974, you can still really hear that kind of trademark Anthony Jackson deep sound and kind of very distinctive timing and phrasing.
It's also very rare, that record.
It's also
Very,
very rare.
quite hard to find. It's also, that track is on the Soul Jazz Love Strata East compilation as well. If you can't afford the whole thing. I then went into something about the groove on that track. Reminded me of Milt Jackson's Alinga, and I played the track called I'm Not So Sure. Great band featuring quite a small band. Milt Jackson, Cedar Walton on piano, Ron Carter on bass. We have a standing joke that we always have Ron Carter in one of somewhere or other. And Mickey Roker, the great drummer Mickey Roker, and Jimmy Heath guesting on soprano saxophones as well on here. In a way, it's a typical CTI release, but it's quite a raw sounding track actually. The various tracks on this record have been sampled all over the place. The Metal Melter and Steelbender have been sampled on loads and loads of Tribe Called Quest and other records.
And last time John was here, the following day, we went to this kind of
down the road.
Yeah, it's kind of junk shop-ish kind of place that had some records. So he just had a great CTI selection.
Yeah.
John picked that up, and actually a couple of weeks beforehand, I picked this one up, which is also on the CTI label. Apparently, it sounded very familiar because I think John actually brought this album a few sessions ago.
Yeah, we've already shown this one before.
But this is Art Farmer, and the album is called Crawl Space, and the track we listened to is Crawl Space, and this is a lovely album, fantastic bass playing from Will Lee. We think possibly his first CTI session.
I think so.
Dave Grusin on the keys, Steve Gadd on the drums, Eric Gale on the guitar. Definitely a top CTI album.
For me, I think it is, definitely one of the best.
Yeah.
Played the Ohio Players at the last session actually, and went again, another one of their particularly tasteful covers. This is from last time I played something from their time with Mercury. This is a compilation of tracks from the West Band period, and it's called Pain Plus Pleasure Equals Ecstasy, and played the track called Got Pleasure off here. I mean, hugely underrated, I think, the Ohio Players. They're hardly ever talked about when people start talking about those classic 70s funk bands. Some real kind of chops in this band as well, good players as well.
And Bernard Wright is on that album.
No, don't think so.
Isn't he?
No, don't think so.
Oh. That's weird, because I'm sure there was a Bernard Wright connection.
Maybe we've got out of sync here or something.
Check it out,
No,
John.
Bernard Wright's from here.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah.
We have gone out of sync.
Have we gone out of sync already?
Somehow.
This is pathetic, isn't it?
I reckon... Oh, I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
No?
I think you might be out of sync.
I might be out of sync. Oh, anyway.
Anyway.
There is a Bernard Wright connection, because... Yeah, that John.
Shall I show this? Okay,
Yeah.
This was Alice. Then played. I've been digging into my CD collection a bit recently. Actually, just suddenly realised I've been neglecting listening to a whole range of music. And this was an album that came out a little while ago from Roy Hargrove with the RH Factor, and it's called Hard Groove. And this is a cover version of a Funkadelic song called I'll Stay, which has D'Angelo singing on it, Pino Palladino playing bass, Bernard Wright playing keys.
Aha.
That's the connection. And it's a good album, actually. I haven't listened to it for quite a while, but it actually sounded great.
Yeah.
RH Factor on Verve. Yeah. And that must have been the connection.
That's how we have an album with Bernard Wright here. This is, I think, his first solo album, called Nard. And yeah, it's basically a Jamaica All-Stars album. So you've got Don Blackman, Marcus Miller's on here, but also Roy Haynes and Buster Williams. And the track Haboglabothribin, which has been just used in the UK for some commercial. I can't remember what it is, but it was very nice to hear a Bernard Wright track actually written by Don Blackman on UK TV recently. So let's hope someone got some royalties out of it.
They got some royalties.
Great album, and a great sort of period of I think early 80s New York music coming out. There's Tom Brown, Bobby Broom, Don Blackman, early Lenny White as well, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah, a whole stream of great albums from this period.
They were called the Jamaica Boys because they came from Jamaica Queens, not
That's
Jamaica
right.
in the Caribbean. We are, so you need to show this next,
Oh,
otherwise we're going
okay.
to be badly.
I don't know what's going on. So we got into some horn rock soul.
We've just
Horn-driven
just
rock.
invented a new genre.
We have. I seem to remember Big Star 1000 mentioning something about horn rock. Anyway, maybe horn rock doesn't exist, but this is an album by Gotham, and it's called Pass the Butter, and it was on a label called Natural Resources, which was kind of an offshoot of Motown. And I think it was Motown sort of slightly capitalising on a kind of rock soul crossover sound. And there's a great horn section that's featuring Pee Wee Ellis, who obviously plays with James Brown. And we listened to a track called Window Pane, which I recommend check it out on YouTube. There's a vocalist who does sound a little bit like he's about to explode. He's trying so hard. I thought he sounded a little bit like Terry Reid. John wasn't so sure.
I'm not so sure.
But great sound on this album. And you said it was produced by a guy. You said it was produced by somebody who's done lots of other interesting stuff.
Yes, produced by Tom Wilson,
That's it.
who was the man who produced all kinds of things. He produced Bob Dylan's Highway 61, Velvet Underground, Frank Zappa. I mean, he's the kind of in. He was the house producer for a while, I think.
You'd be very pleased to know that Tom Wilson is an Aries.
Good. Well,
Yes.
we needed to know that. I presume it's the same Tom Wilson.
Well, let's hope so.
So then, yeah,
Yeah.
we might be really out of whack here.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we are actually. Something about thinking about late 60s, early 70s, kind of psychedelic, went for Jefferson Airplane, Volunteers, and don't really need to say much about this record really. Bit of a classic. Played the track Wooden Ships off it. Sounded great actually.
Really sounded good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was looking for an opportunity to play some Groundhogs, which was a first for one of our sessions. This is an album.
Aren't we all?
We all want some Groundhogs. We all want to look like Tony McPhee here.
Yeah.
This is a kind of, I guess, a sort of blues rock power trio from the early 70s. I wasn't really familiar with Tony McPhee, but I was listening to this great radio show on BBC Six Music, and it was the guy, what's his name? Carl Hyde from Underworld.
That's right.
Yeah, and he was on doing a 3-hour show and playing an extremely, just very surprising range of music, and played the Groundhogs and mentioned what a great guitarist Tony McPhee was. So I immediately got onto Discogs and bought this album, and it sounds great. And the other thing that was interesting is the engineer is Martin Rushent, who did go on to do stuff, I think, with Factory, and definitely did a lot of stuff with Human League.
Yeah.
But interesting to hear his work from 1972.
As we say, that sounds nothing like the Human League.
No, it doesn't. It's absolutely true. But it just sounds really
Sounded
really
good.
interesting.
Really
Very
good.
good. Yeah.
Okay. After Mark started to get a bit heavy with the Groundhogs, I went very, very heavy. I went for Cult of Luna, their first. I hardly ever. Suddenly dawned on me, I hardly ever played any real metal. I listened to quite a lot of metal. I hadn't played any metal in a session. So we went for this is their Cult of Luna's first album, I think. They are. I mean, I know very little about metal. I have to say it's not this, but I do really like this band a lot. Swedish band, and played basically the last track called The Sacrifice with a little intro before it. They got some real dynamics going with this band actually. It's not just about volume and lots of power. There's some real dynamics here.
And it's definitely about intensity.
Very intense. Yeah.
Very intense, and sort of actually made me think of bizarrely of I Want You from the Beatles' Abbey Road, which this is an original vinyl copy that used to be my mum's. And I remember probably as about a 10 or 11-year-old, sort of really getting into I Want You because it sounded so kind of dangerous, I guess.
Yeah.
Particularly to the end, it kind of virtually ends up in pure white noise, and still sounded pretty intense when we listened to it. In fact, it was so intense we actually had to go and have a break
Yeah,
afterwards.
that's right.
Because where could we go from there?
It's quite interesting because there was white noise at the end of the Coals of Loon
That's
track as
right.
well. So we had a break, came back, we ended up having a chat outside about Prince. So I thought I'd play some Prince. Don't never need much of an excuse, and played the track Alexa de Paris or Alexa de Paris off this 12-inch single of Mountains, which is a great. There's lots and lots of really interesting Prince music hiding away on B-sides, yeah, it's a great track. Some really good guitar playing on it as well. And the version of Mountains on here, which is off Parade, is about 4 times as long as the original version. It has all kinds of stuff happening in it. So check out those Prince B-sides. There's some hidden jewels in there.
And I guess just thinking of very talented individual musicians who seem to be able to do everything, I've kind of been looking for an excuse to play the new Stephen Wilson in one of our sessions. I've had it sort of pretty much since the beginning of the year. Never quite found the opportunity. This is the Hand Cannot Erase album, and we listened to the track called Home Invasion, which also went into a bit of regret. And yeah, I mean, both his last solo albums, I've got them both. They're both incredibly well produced, incredibly well played. But actually, I have to say, I kind of agree with John. They're also a little on the cold side.
Look at that.
But you know, pretty state of the art prog.
Yeah. I mean, I was a big Porcupine Tree fan. I mean, I really like them a lot. Yeah, there's something about it. I kind of like his work with other people more, I think, sometimes. And he's done some great, I mean, his production of Opeth's been really good, I think, which is another one of my metal. We were thinking we were getting a little bit guitar driven, so had a complete change of pace and went for fulfilling this first finale and played, what did I play?
You haven't done
Done nothing of it. I mean, don't need to say anything about Stevie Wonder, really, don't think.
No, but just it
Just
still sounds
sounds
so
amazing.
fresh.
Yeah,
No one can make a drum machine sound as funky as that.
no, that's right. Yeah, so, you know, part of that whole run of amazing records, which are just, unparalleled, really. I don't think anyone's made a run of brilliant records like he did around that time. So, yeah, Stevie.
Yeah. So yeah, we needed to warm up with a bit of soulful music. So Stevie obviously kicked that off. Then John had turned me on to a great Mixcloud mix that Erica Badu had done fairly recently. I can't remember what it was called. Sort of music to raise your spirits.
Yeah, it's just, I think, to cheer everybody up,
Yeah.
which is a really nice thing to do.
And it really cheered me up. And actually, one of the tracks she played was the track "Blessed" by The Emotions. Now, The Emotions were a bit like the female version or the female wing of Earth, Wind and Fire. And this album is produced by Maurice White and features all of Earth, Wind and Fire. And Blessed is a fantastic killer tune. So I highly recommend that if you haven't got this album. Very easy to come by. Sensational.
Really good. And then there was something about that track that made me think of Curtis Mayfield. Don't know what it was actually. It might have been the groove. So played. I mean, this is from Gotta Find a Way, Curtis Mayfield record. One of the not often talked about. It's kind of mid '74, mid '70s, and a fantastic track on here called Mother's Son, which is just really kind of raw, stripped back sound, fantastic drumming, great kind of voice, kind of very minimal vocal on it as well, and really underrated Curtis Mayfield record. You can buy it for nothing really. I mean, it's around all over the place.
Really good.
So
Really
Mother's
nice.
Son, Curtis Mayfield, really good track.
Yes. Mother's Son, Father's Children.
Yeah.
Which is the slightly tenuous connection. For me to play this 7-inch by the band Father's Children. I played their album in the last session. This was the bonus 7-inch that came with the album, and actually I think it's possibly my favourite track. This is called Intellect, and it's just a classic slab of early 70s uplifting funk.
Yeah, very good.
Really nice.
Yeah. Keeping on the uplifting kind of funky sound, again, pulled out something that picked up in my recent CD binge. Well, I didn't pick it up. I listened to it. I had it for years, but decided to listen to it again. And this is from Raphael Sadiq's Ray Ray, and played the track called Chic, which sounds like Chic actually. He's an incredibly talented guy, Raphael Sadiq. I mean, I don't.
Really?
There's NPR Music have a regular slot called the Tiny Desk concert, where people just go into their office and play in their office usually with a stripped down kind of unplugged kind of set. And there's he's done a great session in there. He just goes in with another guitarist and God, the guy can play actually, really good. I think there's a bunch of Raphael Sadiq albums.
Yeah, it's
about
definitely
5 or 6 now,
Yeah,
and he's just very good.
I still think my favourite's Instant Vintage.
That's the best.
But that was good. I forgot.
Yeah.
I'm going to re-listen to that. So carrying on the Raphael Sadiq tip, this is a 12-inch. I think possibly Ben Costello also showed this a while back. Anyway, it's a collaboration with Raphael Sadiq and Q-Tip, and the track is called Get Involved. From the 90s, I think, late 90s. Sounded great. Really nice. Talented guy.
Keeping with tips and QQs, went
It's your
for
cue.
my cue. Played the track off the Jam, the Tribe Called Quest Jam EP, which came out kind of around the same time as Beats, Rhymes and Life. Played a track called Mardi Gras at Midnight on here. A lot of people just don't like that period of Tribe Called Quest very much, but I must say I'm quite a fan of that. Well, all of their periods actually, come to think of it. So yeah, kind of good hip hop, kind of Fife and Q-Tip doing it really.
Yeah. And obviously, Tribe Called Quest known for their kind of mix of jazz and hip hop, and it felt right to bring it to the table. The Black Renaissance album, which was an album from 1976, and very much came from the keyboard player Harry Whittaker, who used to play keys with Roy Ayers, Roberta Flack. I think he's also Eugene McDaniels. Great player, and this was an album that I think had a very sort of limited run. I think it was made in Japan, and then got rediscovered and came out on Love and Hate in the early 2000s. It's an album which basically is just 2 tracks. It's got Woody Shaw, it's got Buster Williams, Billy Hart, M2May, Earl Bennett. Just a fantastic
Great
track.
stuff.
Kind of, we were sort of saying like spiritual jazz funk. And kind of almost early rapping going on there as well. But yeah, great album, highly recommended.
Great vocals, female vocals.
Great female
as well.
vocals.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the original, they've lost the master tapes of this, so we'll never see a proper
No.
new edition of it. If you do find the original, just get it. Cost a fortune. Keeping with the Harry Whittaker, then moved on to, Mark mentioned Roy Ayers, went on to Roy Ayers' soundtrack for the film Coffee, and played the track Shining Symbol off that. And this is Roy Ayers with Harry Whittaker, Richard Davis playing bass, Dennis Davis on drums, who of course went on to play with David Bowie later on. This is, I think, one of my favourite Roy Ayers albums actually. I mean, it's got a very stripped down kind of sound to it. And some good playing, yeah.
And this is one of my current favourite Roy Ayers albums. It's the album called He's Coming. I think apparently quite influenced by Roy Ayers sing Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm not sure if that's true.
That's right. It's a good story.
It's a good story, but the first track is called He's a Superstar, and there's definitely a bit of a kind of religious fervour going on through some of this album. But again, Harry Whittaker's heavily involved, co-writes the classic We Live in Brooklyn Baby track, and actually we listened to the beautiful tune Sweet Tears.
Very good.
Fantastic, really great album, this one, really good. Yeah.
We were now seriously approaching jazz funk nostalgia.
Jazz
section.
funk and rare groove.
Yeah, rare groove nostalgia section, and pulled out Gene Harris's Astral Signal record. Now Gene Harris is obviously well known for being part of the Three Sounds, who were a huge Blue Note band through the 50s hard bop kind of crossing over with almost like soul jazz in the 50s and 60s. And this is from early 70s and played the track called Los Alamitos off here as well. This is Usual Suspects again, Chuck Rainey, Harvey Mason, David T. Walker and so forth on here. It's a great track, kind of Latin-y kind of sounding, very short, very, very evocative though.
Reminds me a bit of the Ramsey Lewis Salongo,
Yep,
actually, which is maybe why
maybe where you play that.
Ramsey Lewis appears again. He's here every session at the moment.
Yeah.
And here he is with That's the Way of the World, a track written with Maurice White and Charles Stepney. It's a Charles Stepney production. Great keyboards and Rhodes playing from Ramsey Lewis. I would say not his finest album, but it's a great tune.
Mm-hmm. Then we had another break, and then we went into a kind of freestyle section.
We did.
We thought we were going to play a lot of jazz, but we didn't quite play a lot of jazz. We played a bit. I started out with one of my favourite Rahsaan Roland Kirk albums, which is called Natural Black Inventions Root Strata. And this is Rahsaan by himself, primarily. I mean, he does actually play with, there's gets a little bit of percussion help on some tracks as well. Just amazing record, actually very, really kind of strong, deep, big influence on, well, it's one of the favourite records he made with the whole AACM art ensemble kind of crowd. Yeah, and it's him playing 4 or 5 instruments at the same time. Played the track called Something for Train That Train Could Have Said. Great, I love this record, it's one of my favourites.
With a great droning sound.
Great drone, yeah, I mean it's hard to actually, it's hard to work out what on earth's going on in some of the tracks as well, so it does not sound like one person in the studio at all.
No. We moved on to another artist playing solo, and this time it was Paul Bley and his solo piano album called Open to Love. And the track Ida Lupino, which is written by his first wife, I think, Carla Bley. Beautiful, beautiful tune. Really amazing album. I've only just discovered it. John tells me it was very groundbreaking.
I've actually got one of the few records I've got 2 copies of. Yeah, absolutely love that record. Yeah, big influence over kind of, I mean it started off it's told that Keith Jarrett started making solo piano records after Manfred Eicher suggested he did after that one. So there's a connection here. Then don't know what the connection was with this one actually, but for some reason or other I decided to play the track Blood of My Blood from Keith Hudson's Flesh of My Skin, Blood of My Blood. This is a reissue on Basic Replay of this record. I mean it's kind of strange, very, very strange reggae record. I mean, quite a lot of the tracks don't have any drums on, any trap drums on, they just use percussion. Features a lot of the features Chinna, Leroy Sibbles, Santa on drums, all kinds of the usual kind of character. Augustus Pablo on here as well. Very, very deep, kind of spiritual kind of record, actually. So got a little bit, reminds you a little bit of Bunny Wailer's Black Art Man in places as well. Yeah, so it's was a very, very rare Jamaican vinyl. It's now been reissued on the Basic Replay, which is part of Basic Channel, which is like an experimental electronic music label.
Well, talking of spiritual reggae artists, they don't come much more spiritual than Burning Spear. This is just a compilation on Island from 1985, and we listened to the track Slavery Days. I don't know if any of you have ever seen Burning Spear. I'm not sure if he's actually touring very much, but he is absolutely a legend and somebody who does bring an incredible spiritual vibe to the live event. I can tell you when those horns kick in at the beginning of Slavery Days, it will send a shiver up your spine and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up to attention. Great.
It's from the Marcus Garvey record, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's a dub version called Garvey's Ghost of the record, which is actually almost as good as the vocal version.
Really sort of kind of such a distinctive voice. You just need to hear one word and you know it's the Spear.
Yeah. Bernie Spears spent a lot of time in my bedroom when I was a teenager. Listened to a lot of that stuff. Then got back onto the jazz tip a bit. Again, I'm not sure there was any connection whatsoever with the last one. But I've been listening to quite a lot of Duke Pearson recently, and some of the kind of slightly later period Blue Notes, and from the album called Wahoo, which has Donald Byrd, James Spaulding, Joe Henderson, Bob Cranshaw, and Mickey Roker again, second appearance of the evening.
Very different style.
Very different style, and played the track called Amanda off this. Worth checking out, Duke Pearson, very underrated, but I think I said that in the last session, so I won't say that again. Anyway, good album. This is on a kind of, I have to say, slightly dodgy repress from Heavenly Sweetness. I mean, it might be 180 grams, but it's not a great pressing, actually.
It sounded a bit distorted.
Very distorted.
This was a better repress on the Blue Note label. I think this is one of the recent ones that they've just done. This is the absolute stone cold classic, Speak No Evil,
Yeah.
Wayne Shorter, Freddie Hubbard, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Elvin Jones joining Wayne. We listened to the track called Wildflower. This has got to be a must in any
Yeah.
jazz collection.
It's one of my top 5 records.
Ever.
Ever.
There you go.
I think that one.
What
Absolutely.
higher recommendation can you get than that?
Absolutely. No, it's great. Then I went for another CD, actually, and been listening quite a lot to Michelle. We were just saying, we don't often see people talking about Michelle Ndegeocello on the
They
VC
should be
or
talking
anywhere else.
about it.
And they should be, really. I mean, she's made some amazing records, and she must have had about 10, at least 10 albums
All
out.
good.
This is from her second album. This is quite an early one from her. And played the track called Mary Magdalene off that, which has a wonderful, really short tenor saxophone solo by Joshua Redman, who's Julie Redman's son, of course, and great player in his own right. And it's probably the sexiest song I've ever heard in my life, I think, actually. Well, one of them, anyway.
We followed that up with Dinner Music from Carla Bley. So Carla Bley, obviously, as I said earlier on, was married to Paul Bley and was the composer of that Ida Lupino track. This album also features that track on it, but we actually listened to a very rare Carla Bley vocal, a track called Dining Alone. And I think I don't know a huge amount about Carla Bley, but I know that this was one of the first albums where she sort of basically started working with the band that was pretty much stuff, I think. So you've got Steve Gadd and Richard T, Eric Gale, Cornell Dupree, but also you've got Michael Mantler, Roswell Rudd.
Carlos Ward. So you've got, it's almost like 2 different scenes joined together on one band. It's great.
But she is so worth exploring.
Yeah.
Really, really amazing composer.
Big fan of Carla Bley.
Yeah.
And then my last track had no relation to Carla Bley whatsoever.
No?
Played a track again from going for another CD. Next time there'll be more vinyl, I promise. And a singer called Norma Waterson, who's major figure on the British folk scene. She's worked with Martin Carthy for years and years and years and years. Most of her stuff is traditional folk music. She made 2 records in the 90s, which were where she was actually covering more different kind of material on them. There's this one and an earlier record as well, a later record rather as well, and features a band with Martin Carthy as a husband, Danny Thompson on the bass, and Richard Thompson the guitarist as well. And I played the track Black Muddy River, which is of course a Grateful Dead song written by Garcia and Jerry Garcia and Robert Hunter, and I think it's probably almost my favourite cover of a Grateful Dead song. So Norma Waterson, check her out. Also check out her, I think her sister Lal Waterson as well, who's done some great stuff.
And who was playing bass, John, on that?
Danny Thompson was playing bass on that.
And weirdly enough, I had already pre-selected this Danny Thompson album, which just happens to be on exactly the same record label.
Yeah, it's on Hannibal.
The Hannibal label.
Joe Boyd's label.
Which was again very strange synchronicity. It does happen in these sessions. Again, big shout out to Ben Costello for turning me on to this album. I didn't even know it existed. It's a really lovely, very hard to place in terms of genre, but there's definitely strong echoes of jazz and folk in this album. It's all instrumental, beautifully played, and if you like the tonal qualities and playing of Danny Thompson, then you really need this album.
Tony Roberts, he plays saxophones, but he also plays Northumbrian flutes and all Northumbrian flutes. Plays pipes and various other stuff on there as well. I mean, he's an amazing musician. Actually, I've seen him playing with Danny before. It's great.
It's called Whatever, this album.
In fact, the band was called Whatever, I think, as well. They actually gigged around for a while.
So there you go, folks. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, we've been going for 35
We've been
minutes.
going
That's
for a
quite
very
a
long
time.
time. So if anyone's still there, well done for
Yeah.
hanging in there.
If you're not, I hope you're sleeping well.
Yes. See you soon.
See you later.